Well, hello, everyone. I'm Ed Parco, and I'm with Amy T. Meyer, the co-host. So I don't know if this is the best part about today, besides our guest, the fact that you're not going to be talking much because you're at the airport and you have yourself muted a lot. So that means I can say whatever I want and no one's really going to hear you talk. Go ahead, Amy. What do you want to say? Anything?
I do. I want to say treasure it. Treasure it.
All right. Let's bring in our guest, Dom Faussette. How you doing, sir?
Outstanding. How you doing?
Good. All right. I appreciate you doing the show. I held off for about a year and a half to make sure it was at the level for you to come on the show. Wanted to make sure we had some back. I know how you are. You're high. You're really high up there. We want to make sure that we had Steve right away. So that tells you where you rank.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Dom. So first questions we always ask is, what service were you in? And we also want to get into your transition story, because one of the things we find out, depending on when you were in, I know when I was in, there wasn't much except for there's a class, this is what you're figuring out, and you're out of here, right? So tell me, what service were you in? And
Air Force.
Was your story?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Air Force.
Air Force. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I thought you said Air Force. I'm sorry.
Did you just sneeze? It sounds like you just sneezed. I don't know what that was.
Air Force, I said. Air Force.
Yeah. Air Force. I was K9. And, I don't really remember the class. I do remember, they took my ID and said, you can't just come back on base. That was very evident. That was one of their pushes. Yeah, there wasn't any prepping, to what they do today. And I got out in 2000. So, yeah, all that prepping stuff wasn't a thing. Just don't come back here, basically, is what they say.
All right. So, question for you. So, how long did you serve?
4 years.
So you did the normal 4 years. Did you go anywhere? Where were you stationed?
I was stationed McGuire Fort Dix out of New Jersey, South Jersey, and then got deployed a couple times to North Africa. Went to Paris for training to train there somebody, and then went to Spain, and I think that there's a couple other places, but that was about it.
So I got one more thing to say. So you went on a safari, then you went on vacation in France, and then you went on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. You must have had a really hard time in the Air Force. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, I would say it was. You know what? The only reason why I didn't have a blast is because in the Air Force, when I was K9, Air Force was the only branch that you didn't have to be a sergeant and above to qualify for K9. So I was K9. Basically fresh out of high school. I mean,
what's K9 for people? What's K9 for people who don't know what that is?
You have a dog that searches for bombs. So there's drug dogs and bomb dogs. I had a bomb dog. And so everywhere I went, I was always deployed with Yahoos in the Army and the freaking Marine Corps. So I always they just treated me like crap because I was like an E3. Meanwhile, everybody else is like an E5. So it was, I grew up quick. I will definitely say that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't realize, the Army, how fast my son's been in a little over 2 years. He's already E5 in the Army.
What?
Yep.
How?
Airborne medic. That's all I can say.
Oh, well, you should have started with that. Yeah. It's the medic part. So
no, because dude, I was a corpsman. It took me 5 years. It took me my whole tour to get to E4. Give me a hole.
Bro, that was 1825. That is different today.
It was the same. No, it was close to when you were in. But anyway, stay out of it, Amy. No, but it's funny how the Air Force, I'm not Air Force, but Army, I didn't realize how big they were compared to all the other forces. So they get a lot more people. The Navy's kind of like you don't move up as much because people have to get out, and people don't want to get out. Yeah. So, all right. So K9, you had a dog. And so you were MP, I assume, or you just were bomb disposal? Yes. Okay.
No. I was, they say in the Air Force, SP, MP, same thing. And then I became K9 right after SP school.
Is that something you really wanted to do when you went in, or is that just something that you kind of fell into?
I failed out of something into K9. So I failed out of PJ school because I missed a swim test by 7 seconds. And apparently there's no redos. So yeah, my last swim tests for the situation. And yeah, so when I was K9, like after that, I had a grudge. Because when you start there, you have this, you look down on people. It's probably why I didn't make it. But you just, you know, I'm better than everybody. I'm the fittest, I'm the fastest, I'm creme de la creme. And they're like, oh, 7 seconds. So yeah, they kind of like, hey, since you didn't make it, here's, you know, maybe this will help. So you don't have to be regular SP.
Gotcha.
It was what it was.
Amy, do you have a question over there?
No, I like it. What did you like most about Africa? Or did you like it?
I did. So the first time I went, I was in Egypt. What I liked about it was I've never been. I mean, being 19 years old, spending one of your birthdays in Egypt, that was pretty cool. Got to, you know, eat with other families in tents, or they didn't call them tents, but got to meet a lot of cool people. And, you know, I look Egyptian when I'm there. So it was an experience that a kid growing up, I grew up in the hood. So the 17, right, or 16 in the hood, 19, I'm in Egypt, you know, riding around with my K9. And that part was pretty cool. It was an experience like I will never forget, but I would have never done that had I not joined the military.
Question for you. Are you still into dogs? Or do you not like dogs? Okay. You had a K9, so I mean, yeah. He was with you the whole time, or she was with you, so, you know.
Yeah, I have. So my dog Clint was my Malinois, and the dogs I have now, I have 3 French bulldogs. So yes, huge fan of dogs. I don't do big dogs now because I don't like picking up big poop. So yeah, and I just don't trust big dogs. If I'm being honest, not that they scare me, but I have nieces and nephews that come over. So the small dogs, and look, I'll be real with you. I'm the only guy that looks like me in my neighborhood. So I'm kind of limited as the kind of dogs I can just walk around with without getting stereotyped or judged. So a Frenchie is like a very well qualifying dog.
So they don't have a lot of Egyptians there.
They don't. We are not in Egypt. We are in North Glendale. Close. Very close. I'm not Egyptian for anybody watching it.
Yeah, I know. It's just, you know, people, unless you've been in the military, it's not but people care out there in the real world what all that stuff is. I don't.
We don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up when my dad was a bigot. That's why I am not that way.
Whose dad isn't a bigot? My dad still starts sentences with the refers to an entire group of people. I'm like, bro, Dad, you can't say the black, the gay. Like, you can't do that. But it's that generation. It is what it is.
Right. Now you're just offending Amy, but that's okay.
Right.
She's offended
exactly.
Easy. All right. So you're in for 4 years, right? When you got out, did you know what you wanted to do? When you were getting out, did you go, I want to stay in that? Because I know I know your story. Nobody else knows your story.
But what you don't know is that, so there was a year space between, maybe a year and a half, between getting out of the military, exiting military, entering law enforcement. I was in a band. And I don't know why I thought I could be good.
Was it a big hair band? Oh, it was a 2000 big hair band time period, right?
You know, I did have,
hey, I'm bald. I can do that joke. All right.
No, you totally can. Even if you weren't bald, I would just be envious. But no, it was like this like rap / punk / it was a thing. And thank God there was no social media. I will say that. I don't have pictures or videos because I thought I'd be doing this for the rest of my life. You know, when you're 20, you think 40 or 20 something, 40s like death. So and then I just had an itching for carrying a gun. I was like, I can't do, like, I still need to like do some things. I was going through some things. So I felt like, let me become a cop. So I became a cop for 4 years. That was fun.
Yeah, I don't think it was, but okay.
It was fun then.
I know the other story also, right? So you're a cop for 4 years. We don't have to get into the reason why that all changed, but looking back, I mean, would you do anything differently? Would you not join the military? Would you, do you think that was a great time in your life to grow up? I mean, because a lot of people don't realize what it does for you, right?
I wouldn't. So My adult self says I wouldn't do anything differently, but I would have not listened to my recruiter, and I would have maybe read some books because I didn't have YouTube at the time.
It wasn't
To
around.
really understand. You said what?
It wasn't around.
No,
YouTube
it was
wasn't
not a
around then.
thing. To understand what CCT and PJ was, and I would have taken swimming more seriously and not just relied on talent. But hindsight, one of the guys that I went through with who did make it through and became a PJ, like he's not with us today. So I think, like, hindsight, many obviously decades later, I think if I would have made it, I don't think I would have been here. And I wanted to be PJ for the wrong reasons. Like I wanted to do it to prove people wrong. So differently, I would have taken swimming more serious so I could be PJ. And at the time, if I would have died doing a job that I loved, I think I would have been totally fine with that. So, but that's the only thing different. But other than that, like I grew up quick. Most of the jobs that I've had were because I'm prior military. Most of I attribute a lot of success to being prior military. There's just a pride, you know. You hear it. You hear guys our age that the one regret I only have is I wish I would have joined the military. No, you don't. You were scared balls off, and you weren't standing, you know, at MEPS like we were. So it's easy to say at 40 when you can't join.
Yeah, that's like the ones I wanted to be a police officer, but I'm only a security guard.
Exactly. I work at the jail. Not the same. So not the same.
Yeah.
But no, I would. To answer your question now, I like the trajectory it brought me from and took me to.
All right. So when you were in the police force, right? I mean, you were in for 4 years. Was there, I don't want to, you know, if there's something you don't want to get into, that's fine. But why? I mean, you did service for 4 years. You did now a cop for 4 years. Is there a 4-year thing? Did you do something after that for 4 years, or after that you're doing what you're doing now?
No, after that. So 4 years there, hindsight, I realized I get impatient real quick. So I jumped into, my aunt was a VP in a bank in Chicago, and she controlled the Americas. And she got me a job in the mortgage industry doing sales. I was selling mortgages. And they just told me how much money I can make. And when you come out of the military, like any amount of money is like, I'm about to be rich. So they just said, all you got to do is, you know, you just got to make phone calls and you got to sell people and stuff. I'm like, so I just got to call people, talk to them about something that they already own, get them to spend a little bit more money, and I make how much? So I was just smart. To me, it was, I wasn't getting deployed. It was easy. So I'm just hammering stuff out. So, and growing up poor, you don't take vacations. So in the military, I didn't take a vacation. In law enforcement, I never knew what vacations were. Like I didn't know anybody that took vacations. And then, so when I got it, all I did was work. So when I got out of the military or got out of law enforcement, I'm just doing mortgage sales. And I did that for about 2 years. And then I jumped into some sort of leadership role with some startup company before they were called startups. It was like a call center, a collection agency. That's what it was. Did that for 2 years. And then after that, I got connected with underwriting. Had never heard of underwriting, but somebody said, bro, you can make 35 to 40 bucks an hour and you get overtime. I'm like, yo, I'm about to be rich, right? Because that's like $70,000 to $85,000 a year plus corporate bonuses. So I was making it got close to 6 figures, and I was young. And I didn't know anything about tax returns. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I figured it out. The military taught me to fake it till you make it and just figure it out. Like, you see something you want, take it. So I got that job and started promoting. That's when doors started to open up for me. So I was at Wells Fargo for 2 years. Then I went to Chase for 2 years. Then I got headhunted to go somewhere else. And I ended up at USAA, which most veterans have heard of them. And I was doing leadership development there. And that's kind of how I'm a speaker. I'm an executive coach. I have a TV show. I have a radio show here in the Valley in Phoenix. That's what I do now. But the paid speaking space and executive coaching, being there, they hired me to do some financial stuff, but I don't like working, and speaking is natural. It just comes naturally for me. So we would be given these huge projects, and you got to use your brain every night, every day. And the teams were like, hey, Dom, if you could just deliver this project at the end, that's your role. You don't have to do anything during the next 3 to 6 months. I'm like, sweet. All I got to do is talk for an hour about what we built and sell our executives on it. So I did that. And then I just started teaching people how to speak. That's honestly how I got into it. I didn't know that people got paid to speak. I didn't know people got paid to coach. I just knew that people would call me and they would ask me a question. Can you help me with this? And I had the wherewithal to charge them. Like, yeah, I'll do it for you for this amount of money. Because if you ask the mechanic to change your brakes, he ain't doing it for free. So you're asking me to help you out, fix something. I'm not going to do it for free. So that's kind of how I fell into coaching and the speaking stuff.
Have you always had the dominant voice?
I sound like this since I was 14.
You sound like a drill sergeant is what you sound like.
Don't worry. Well, he asked me the same thing. He asked me the same thing.
No, I didn't.
Amy, that's so wrong. That was a good one, though. Yeah, I sound like it wasn't this honed. I mean, you're on radio. So before radio, 5 years before radio, your voice didn't sound all sultry and sexy and cool the way it does now. But when you're on radio,
it's always sounded that way because I sold by the phone for 18 years.
Okay. So you know what it is. But yeah, I sound like this for a while, but I stuttered until I was 19. So radio, trust me when I say it wasn't on my radar. I stuttered from the age 5 till I was 19.
Wow.
But once I found my voice, it was game over.
And you probably found that in the military?
I did. I found it when you're deployed in your K9, like you and your dog are the team. You don't have buddies. So they would send me, I'm sitting literally on the middle of a sand dune with like nothing there, having to watch or oversee this area. And they had me up high just because I had the dog. To me, that didn't make sense because he can't shoot, but whatever. And you just, the sand starts talking to you and you start talking to your dog. So you're sitting out there for 12, 15, 16 hours and maybe somebody rolls up and checks on you a couple minutes. It's just you and the dog talking. So that for me was therapy. I had somebody to listen. I'm not crazy. I may not be wrapped too tight, but as I hear myself talking, it sounds crazy. But
no, it doesn't. We got it. We're good. Okay. Don't worry about it.
All right, good.
I don't know. Amy, put down the phone. Stop calling the number.
Here's his address. Go check on him. He needs a wellness check.
That's right. No, because a lot of vets, you go in the military, you get out, you don't know what you want. You do a few different jobs. I did the same thing. And then I landed in the mortgage industry and I stayed because I like talking to people. Right. And that's why I do radio. Right. That's why I do podcasts. I found that the best thing I can do is to talk to somebody and get their story across. You kind of do the same thing in a totally different, not different, but you do radio and television. But how could you explain to vets how to get into what you do? You follow me? Because this is the new thing. This wasn't here when we got out.
It wasn't. Not for free. I mean, if we had tens of thousands of dollars, we could do this. But how would I tell a vet to do? You know what? This is what I would tell a vet getting out. Don't do what I do. Do what you want to do, but just do it. Right? The military teaches you don't just take your uniform out of the dryer and put it on. You take it out, you iron it, use some Stay Flow if people still use that to make sure all the creases are sharp, and then you put it on. So whatever it is you're going to do, make sure you put some Stay Flow on it, right? Make sure it looks good and you're ready to get some no matter what it is that you do. So there's a civilian way. I could be doing a Zoom just like this on my cell phone, but instead I learned how to utilize camera equipment. So whatever the skill set is that you have, maybe you don't like talking to people, but I would do that. I would figure out what it is that you want just by trying things. And I have never met a veteran who doesn't like trying stuff, but one day lock it down, right? Don't be squirrely about everything that you do. Do one thing and commit yourself to it. And you'll be amazed at the results that come about.
Well, Amy, anything? I'm not used to it being so quiet, only me.
Well, I like what you had to say there. I think sometimes, though, some veterans kind of do have a little fear of failure because such structure in the military. Maybe it is dependent upon how long they serve. But Do you feel like there are any networks or programs that are helpful? We've found, Ed and I, that tends to be like information silos. And so part of this is trying to get people to have more conversations and share their veterans and things like that. So do you have any recommendations there?
I would. I ignored my PTSD honestly up until two years ago, or that was 2019. I would end up going to the VA. I think I went 7 times, just over like just probably the 5 or 6 year period. Every time I get to the front doors, like, nah, I'm good. Like I wasn't good. Then I would drive there, get to the front doors, like, nah, I'm good. But then one day I said, you know what? I don't feel like I don't have the capacity to engage emotionally. I was still coaching and speaking, but as my wife would say, she just said, you just seem dark. And to me, I'm like, I had faked it so long that I was good at faking it. But I knew I wanted to feel, but I just didn't think happiness was for me. I couldn't feel sad. I couldn't get angry. Gray was the thing. But to make a long story short, I one day just went to the VA after like just everything came crashing down. And I had too many wins in my life to not be happy. Just bought the biggest house I've ever owned. Let me tone that down. It's like 3,300 square feet. It ain't that big, but it's the biggest house I've ever owned or ever lived in. Just bought a Porsche 911 Turbo. Just got back from St. Martin with my wife and, staying on a private beach. Like life was good, but
hold on. And you were married to your wife. I mean, that's the biggest thing right there.
She is hot. I'm not even going to lie. Like,
besides that part, she's an amazing woman. Yeah, she's an amazing woman. I met her at the last.
I forgot you met her at the thing we were at.
Yeah. The secret thing. Don't tell Amy. She doesn't need to know.
Right. But yeah, huge. She's been a huge supporter of me, and she never pushed me to go to the VA. But I knew I had to go if I wanted my relationship to work. Because the way I was going, it was just like either I'm gonna check out or somebody else is gonna check me out. So what I did was EMDR. And you asked me about programs. If you're a vet with PTSD, okay, I get it. You're probably thinking, I don't have PTSD. If you've seen some things to keep you up at night, like when I met my wife, I was sleeping in a closet. Like I had a nice condo, but I was sleeping in the closet with the door closed, with my Glock 26 under my pillow, my Benelli shotgun at the door. Because I could control that little space. I could control anything that came into that door. I never did well in open spaces. Never. And I wasn't not naturally a nice person. I was probably pretty aggressive. And I was getting like an hour of sleep a night. 2 hours was a good night. And I didn't know that your body needed more than 2 hours, like 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And then my world just kind of started, my bags under my eyes, the whole nine. But I started doing EMDR. So you ask about programs. There are a million programs out there. At the end of the day, the vet has to freaking make the move and put their boots on, strap up, and walk into the place to get assistance. There's programs on every corner. You have the Google, as my dad calls it, the interwebs, as he also calls it. There's too many options for you. At the end of the day, if you don't get help, that's because you don't want it. And you got to continue. You have to, and I'm talking to the vets, you have to be okay with not wanting help. But don't be a jerk to everybody else around you because you don't want help. Don't be pissed off at your spouse or yelling at your kids or mad when somebody tries to show you some love because you decided that you're going to hold a grudge because you have night terrors. I get it. They suck. But nobody's going to support you until you support yourself. So I don't feel sorry for people that have PTSD because nobody felt sorry for me until the point I was like, you know what? I walked into the VA, and if I'm being very frank, and the guy said, how can I help you? I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it till tomorrow. And he looked at me in a way that he's probably heard that statement or something like it before. And he took me to a shrink. And then ever since then, I wasn't ashamed to say I need help. And my family would always say, oh, that's just Uncle Dominic. He's just crazy. He's just the mean one. He's just not wrapped too tight. Like your family's going to make excuses for you. But a year after I got help, my family started talking to me like, yeah, we were afraid of you. They never told me this, but there was just this evil presence that I had. When you see evil too many times as a young kid, I mean, I'm 19, 20, 21, you just don't. School, nothing prepares you for that. So that you end up, I'm 44 now. So you end up 42 years old, been married 3 times, right? Plenty of friends I've lost because I would just be mean and evil. But at the end of the day, I had to want help. I had to say, Dom Faussette, it's time. If you don't do it today, there's not going to be tomorrow. So, and Ed, you knew me prior to getting help, and then you know me afterward. There's a completely different Dom.
That's why I told you you're a different person. I told you the last time we were together. You're different. You were so high strung more. I mean, you still are at a certain point, but you're about half there that you were before. But you're nicer. And I'm serious. I mean, we didn't connect. I mean, I think this last thing we talked more than we've ever talked. But it was just one of those things where I understand where you're going through. I get it. But people are afraid to ask for help. They're afraid to do this because and as vets, I tell people, you call for support, air support when you're getting shot at. What's the problem of asking for help and getting the help you need? Because you need to get this help and get fixed. And I got one more question for you since you brought up the PTSD. Did you have any demons before you went in?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I don't know your whole life story, man. Because a lot of people say that they had them before they went in, and then it made it worse while they were in. And when they got out, that's why it was so bad. It wasn't just what they saw. Go ahead.
You don't know they're demons. Like I lost 5 of my good friends to gang violence before I was a freshman in high school. I've seen people murdered, like the aftermath of it. I got stabbed my sophomore year in high school in algebra class, and it was my environment. It was just the way I didn't know anything else. We were just poor. And that was just a way of life. But you don't know that they're demons until apparently 42 is when you realize that. But these are things that compound, over time. And as a cop, I wasn't even a good cop. I was so violent. I came from an abusive household as a kid. So when I was a cop and I would go to a call where a dude, I get called because he's beating his wife or he's beating he beat his kids. Well, I would just return the favor immediately, right? Just go in the house, close the door, shut the blinds, and we go to town. It's kickbox most of my life as an adult. And, I would utilize those to just exude what was my hurt. So when I see somebody else hurting, I would just use my hands or my feet. And apparently you can't do that when you don't have a badge. Probably shouldn't do it with one, but it was a different time. I was in Jackson, Mississippi. But now as a civilian, I can't go around doing that. Like I can't hit people. I'm not gonna hit my wife or my kids, but I would just snap. I'm like, man, that's some evil in me. Let me go back to the gym and get some rounds in. So all that to say, the help is there, and yes, you need help. All the signs are there. You're either going to get help or you're not at the end of the day.
All right.
Just
so
don't
people
wait as long as I did.
All right. Yeah. But people don't know that. And we had some people on from Houston who do PTSD, and that's what combat vets, all that. And most of the people are in their 40s by the time they wake up that they have PTSD and they have issues and they want to get control of it. And that's the sad part. So we need to get to people earlier and let them know, hey, you need to deal with this ahead of time. The EMDR, you said, right? Is that what you said? You used?
Yeah.
So what is that for people who don't know what that is?
Google it. But I can tell you I don't know what the words are. No, it's an acronym. Go figure, the VA. But it's not just in the VA, but it's eye movement desensitization
and reprocessing. And reprocessing. I Googled it.
So if you reprocess,
I used the Google.
The Google, right? There's no drugs involved, but you're talking to a therapist who's trained in this, and they shift your brain, bro. Like it works. I promote MDR like I actually get paid, like I'm a paid advertisement. No, it works. And I'm not into the weed. I don't do any drugs of any kind, but that works. And I guess you say your 40s. The thing about having PTSD is nobody is ever comfortable coming and talking to you about, like, if you were to come to me and say you have PTSD, I don't like, you wouldn't. That's just not something we do. No, right?
Because you throw a punch at me.
I don't know I would do that, but I would know how to turn it off.
2 years ago, maybe.
Okay, fair enough. You just
the old Dom, not the new Dom, the old Dom.
Yeah, definitely not the new and improved Dom 2.0. I just think that we know. Like, I knew I was off, but I thought I could manage it.
Right.
And I didn't want to admit it.
Right. Well, I'm glad you went and got help.
Oh yeah. So me or everybody else around me. Yeah, I'm happy. I know what happiness feels like. I enjoyed my birthday for the first time ever this year. I enjoyed Christmas last year for the first time ever. Hated holidays. I hated everything, just about life. But I was still on stage and doing radio and coaching people and yada, yada. Why? Because I know how to turn it on. I just didn't know how to turn it off internally. But now I'm just me.
Wow. You know, Dom, I appreciate you sharing that story because, you know, not everybody likes to share, but people like us who've been on radio or on TV, everybody knows everything about us, right? There's not a secret anymore. It's like, I was the most, no one knew anything about me until I got on radio, and now everybody knows everything about me. There's nothing hidden, right? So
the microphone doesn't judge.
Yeah, that is true. I'm going to put us back to here, and I see Amy's in the dark, so we're going to kick her out. Sorry, Amy. It's just us today because you're in the dark. We can't see you anyway. So we like to keep these about 30 minutes. It's a good point to have. Okay. Anything else you want to add before we go, Dom?
Yeah, man, bro, like anybody watching this maybe going through some things and maybe you're not ready to go to the VA, find something that you have fun doing. I remember the first counselor I talked to, she just said, what did you do as a kid that made you happy? And I said, I used to skateboard. And I was like 25, 26. She said, go buy a skateboard, go back to skateboarding. So I bought a skateboard, a longboard. And now I got 7 or 8 of them, my downhill longboard. But go back to having fun. Go back to doing those things that put a smile on your face when you were a kid. If it was woodwork, go back to woodwork. If it was hunting, go back to hunting. If it was whatever that thing was.
You know, choked up.
A little bit. Oh man.
Sorry.
There we go. Yeah, just go back to being a kid.
Go back to being a kid. Go back to what makes you happy. So basically what you're saying is if you have issues, deal with these issues, get them out of the way so that you can live your life again. All right. Yeah. Sorry, Dom. It must be all that desert air.
Oh, it's dry out here, brother. It's dry out here. I don't know what happened.
Oh, dude, when I got back from there, I was horrible. I was so congested. I had so much allergies from all the wind and stuff. But it's a beautiful place, but the allergies killed me.
I love to hear it. But yeah, man, thanks for the podcast, man. Thanks for the interview. Very good. And you're very good at what you do. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Can get that in writing and can have a 5-star review while you're at it.
Done.
No, the most important thing is to have fun on these things, get stuff across so people understand it's not supposed to be so serious that they don't want to watch it. But PTSD is huge. I think people don't realize how bad it is out there. I'm tired of losing vets, you know, that 22 a day. I'm tired of hearing that statistic. I want to fix that. That's why we're doing this. Want people to share their story, figure out how they can get help. And thanks for sharing your story because I didn't know that all about you. I knew there was something different with you. I just didn't know what it was. So.
Yep, EMDR, brother.
Well, the fact you're working on your PTSD, that's the big thing. So,
definitely.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, deal with that. Good. All right, let's say I think we might. It was this. Oh, that's Amy. She was trying to tell us to talk about things, but we're good. We got it all out. And thanks again, Dom, for being here today. And I want to thank everybody else for watching this, commenting when you do, and when and liking and sharing. And by the way, people don't know we do this live twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:30, but we also goes to a podcast afterwards. And so you can find that anywhere you find your favorite podcast apps. And again, Dom, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks, Amy, for being down there in the bottom, and have a great day.